Next.
All right, our third and final Xavier of the class. Xavier.
I saw that too. I know, so many.
Xavier Legette, South Carolina wide receiver, 6'1", 221 pounds, 8 5/8 inch hands, 31 7/8 inch arms, 77 1/4 inch wingspan. He's 23. He just turned 23 in January. He had a 4.39 in the 40, a 1.54 10-yard split, 126-inch broad jump, 40-inch vertical. At his pro day, he benched 24 times, which doesn't surprise me. He's a big guy.
Big boy.
In 12 games last year, he had 71 receptions, 1,255 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns, 9 rush attempts for -9 yards. That didn't go well.
Well, Matt, I think you should go first on Xavier Legette because you came in this house ranting and raving about him and how much you love. Again, this is another high-end prospect. This is a player you absolutely love.
So, yeah, I mean, if you look at him at his best, right, he's a guy that can go up and get the ball. He has got fantastic hands, probably one of the best my ball mentality type of players out there. Go do contested catches on it, any of that kind of stuff. You know, there are times that I saw him on the field where I thought, man, this guy could be another A.J. Brown coming into the league. He is that impressive when he does things correctly, right? And he's got fantastic game speed. 6'1", 221 pounds. Big, physical wide receiver,
He
right?
looks big. Like he's broad up. Like
He looks very broad. Problems with him, I think he struggles a little bit with his release, and his route running needs some work, right? He's raw in those two areas.
I agree.
If he lands in the right situation and improves in those areas that I just talked about, those deficiencies, that's how I would see him being an A.J. Brown type of wide receiver. So I don't want it to make it sound like right away he is that guy, but he's got some of the best hands in this class, I think.
I agree. I gave him an 8.5.
Yeah, I have an 8.5 there. Contested catch, I think he is the best. Really good body control, really unique ability to just leap up and grab the ball. All those things are great, and he's got more than enough game speed. For a guy that's 221 pounds to be able to run a 4.39 is fantastic, but sometimes there's guys that run a 4.39 that don't look like they're running a 4.39. On the field, he can separate and get downfield. He's big and fast. So there's a lot to like.
Yeah, for Xavier Legette, 6'1", 221, like he can move. Like he is a burner and he's legit. And like when you see him run, like, wow, that's like a big, strong running back is what it looks like out there because he's so broad in shoulders and chest area. So you're right. Out of all things that I watched, like I'm not as high on Xavier Legette as you. Like I'm not even probably close high. Like you're coming to A.J. Brown just because for me it's like I somewhat view him as, and I'll start off with my negatives before going to my positives, I guess, is like I feel like he's just a straight linear kind of guy. Like he's a north-south kind of guy. His routes are just not
His routes aren't great.
I'm not par for sure.
Yeah. So and his routes for how big he is, for how fast he is, he had a lot of times trouble separating. Because his routes aren't that great.
His routes aren't great. But when he does get separation,
yes,
they don't catch up.
And when you get the ball in his area, he's fine. I mean,
and that's the thing. So he doesn't separate great, but you can throw it to him and he'll make the catch.
I mean, and you don't have to be that close to him. Like he'll go out and get like he said that my ball mentality. Like he has that 100%. He has some strong hands, man. They're really good. I mean, and if you set him up, he can get in space. He can tighten up those routes. Which again, what makes me nervous about Legette and why I have him so much lower than you is, you're right. Like this is a guy. Like if he works on a lot of this stuff and he gets together, like he could definitely be a guy, kind of like somebody who we didn't love.
DK Metcalf.
No, but he got drafted by Jacksonville, I believe. Second round, Laviska Shenault.
Oh,
like Laviska.
He could be what we hoped Laviska.
But like he's 20.
I hate that.
He's going to be 20.
I just don't even like that name.
I know you don't. That's why I mentioned it. So like he's only has 1 year of production. Every year before that, he didn't do anything whatsoever. He's going to be 24 years old.
Yeah, he's a little bit older.
So
he just turned 23, so he's going to be 24 eventually, but it's not till like next year.
This will be his age 23 season.
Yep.
Oh yeah, okay, 23, and he'll be 23 in January. Okay,
He'll be 24.
He just turned 23 in January, so I apologize.
That's right.
So I was off a little bit. So my worry for him is like for how much, like for him to really be like you mentioned, like to take this game to the next level. Like I don't know if there's enough time for him to be a really good dynasty asset from that standpoint. I like him as a player. I think he's definitely got some good upside, but for me, like him being older and what he has to work on, like and him being somewhat in my eyes one dimensional.
He came out of nowhere. Also, I mean,
he did.
Yeah,
80 yards in 2019, 113 in 2020, 63 in 21, 167 last year, 1,255 this year.
You know what?
Literally out of nowhere.
And you know what?
Literally.
One thing I think he could do. This is another weird thing I saw him doing on tape a lot. Like I think this would actually, if he just stops doing this, will help his game and definitely help his jack at least. Is like he like jumped, like every time the ball came from him, he like jumped for it. Like even when he didn't need to, like he could have caught the ball like somewhat in stride, or at least caught the ball with those strong hands and then made a move. Like
did the Garrett Wilson gauntlet?
Definitely because how big he is. But yeah, like he's out there like frolicking on the field. Like
I'll have to go back and watch. I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. So
but
I could have missed it.
Yeah, just look. If you do go back and watch, look at it subtly. Like he jumps for the ball
unnecessarily.
I'd probably at that point had two hearts for my eyes.
So before I go, Jared, I know you had kind of a little bit of an interesting insight on why it took him a little bit longer to break out.
Well, it was actually from Brett Coleman on Twitter. I saw he put out like a short thread just to give some context as to why Xavier Legette may be a late breakout. So in high school, he actually played quarterback because he was the best athlete on his team, and he ran the ball from the quarterback position.
Like 1,800 yards, right?
Yeah. And then he gray shirted, which if you aren't familiar with that, it's basically like a delayed scholarship. So like you come in, you take classes, but you're not actually a part of the team until the next year. And then COVID hit, which obviously was tough, but everyone had to go through that. And then after his sophomore year, they had a coaching change. So that can mean a whole lot of different things.
Sure.
And it's tough when you're
especially
trying to develop.
Especially if you're not a 5-star.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of those kind of factors weighed into that, and he's been through a lot in his life. He lost both his parents in high school. But everything you read on this guy is like class act. Like they always use Xavier Legette as like an example for like new kids coming in to that program. Is like that's who you want to be like and emulate.
Work your butt off and
just some context that Brett Coleman put out on Twitter I thought was really good to go over.
And I actually I heard one of the announcers talking in one of the games. I think it might have been the first game of the season because that was the only one that was not one of ours from all 22. It was like a YouTube clip, a YouTube cut up, and they were referencing the fact that the light bulb turned on at the end of last year. He returned a punt for a touchdown in a game, and he's like, that's when he credits the light kind of coming on for him.
And he had a motorcycle accident in 2021 in his junior year too, which also hindered his ability to produce and develop. So
that is a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe like then I had assumed, I was like, wow, he didn't do much, and like he's older and he needs all this work. Maybe he hasn't had an opportunity to put the work in. Because I mean, again, I like the player for what he does well. I think he, like you said, some of the best ball skills in the play.
No doubt.
Like his hands are fantastic. I mean, and there's some plays you watch. I mean, he's literally diving for the football, fully extended like Superman, and comes down with the football. Like he's a fun watch there. And like I said, my biggest negative is like he's so one dimensional. Like I feel like by the time you can put a whole game together there, you have like a year, maybe two of him on your dynasty roster. So like
I get what you're saying with
amongst this class,
but I feel like he's more like Jalen Polk is one dimensional,
right?
Where it's like it's only jump ball. Legette can do that kind of jump ball contested, but he can also go deep. He can also do things over the middle. You can get some run after the catch. So like I get it that he's not like a lateral mover.
He's a little bit of a freak show.
But I think he's a little more than just like one dimensional.
And you're right. I'm probably saying it's the wrong way. It's just I view him as like when I think I'm almost like maybe it's the way he looks. I'm in my head I'm viewing him as like a running back where like he's a north south kind of guy and that's it. Like there's
DK
no shake and bake.
Like that.
DK Metcalf's a great comp for a guy like him actually.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like that comp. Like not as much of a maybe he is a beefcake. I haven't seen him with a shirt off.
He's 221 pounds. I
know.
can guarantee he's got some
That's
beefcake
actually
to him.
I was down on DK coming out too. So kind of like for some things that hindered him, and DK was able to put it together in the right system. So that's how he like if he could do what DK did, that path to NFL. That's how he wins. That's how he becomes like that one wide receiver 1 year. Worth like a high startup pick. That's how he becomes like a good player.
An elite prospect.
And you're right. I should probably use that as something to be optimistic about because that's a really good comp. So
I think he's got, honestly, I think he's got better ball skills than a DK Metcalf, who was more of just like a go long or a stop route guy. And I think he's got a little bit more dimension to him if he figures out how to refine those routes.
And I think that is the biggest thing. And understanding that he wasn't a wide receiver coming out, had to develop that. Maybe there is hopefully still
A little
some development that can be done there. It is harder when you're an older prospect to count on some of those kinds of things.
Sure.
But when you haven't played the position very long, you didn't even play it in high school, it takes some time. And hopefully if he gets with the right coaches, the right system, as much as I find route running very, very important and very, very valuable, I found it fascinating. A couple of years ago, I was listening to Kyle Shanahan, and he was talking about Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, which I think we would both consider both of those guys good route runners. And he was like,
Brandon Ayuk,
especially Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
And he was like, almost all college prospects coming out are terrible route runners. Like, most of these guys need so much refinement and work. And I was like, you got some pretty decent ones there in your roster. You got two really good receivers. So it was just an interesting little thought of, as much as I find importance in that, I don't know that coaches always care as much because they believe they can develop that. Now, can they? Sometimes your own hubris gets in the way, and sometimes guys just can't do things very well. But that gives me a little bit of hope as a possibility there. But I'm with you. I have a 74.5, 5.8 to be specific on him. So really, really solid score.
That's high. Is he in your top 5?
He's 7 for me.
Okay.
He's 7 for me right now. So I have the big 3, Adonai Mitchell, Conkey, Xavier Worthy, and then Legette.
He is 75.35.
Okay. So you got him a little bit higher for me.
Yeah, he is my number 6 guy, but it's between him and Brian Thomas, there's a 0.2 point difference.
Okay.
So 0.2 is only.
What'd you give him for route running?
I think a 6 maybe.
I gave him a 5.5.
Let me see.
I gave him a subpar grade and a 5 for release.
6.
I'm at a 72.9, so it's a little lower, but he's in my top 10 as far as like nerd scores go. He is 10.
Okay. Cool.
yeah, I got him in the teens. I got him like around like 13, 14 around there. But he's in that tier of guys that all offer like upside. So like let's see where he goes and what position he's into. But I said, I mean, that DK Metcalf kind of flipped the switch in mind. I'm like, oh, that's a good
He could honestly be my number 5 guy by the time we're all done.
I'm really curious about draft capital.
Me
for
too.
him.
Sure.
We were talking about that before the show. Like, I could see him being an early 2nd round guy. I can see him being an early 4th round guy.
Yep.
Like, which is drastically changes how you view this player. And so it's, we talk about these tape scores, and I find them very important and very helpful. But at the end of the day, they're just a piece of the equation.
They're a piece, and he's a 23-year-old guy. You know what I mean? So who knows how NFL teams are going to view that?
Yep. Some don't care. Some care a lot.
Yeah, some do care a lot.
Yeah, a lot of teams.
Right.
Like the Browns are one of those teams. They don't
DK
draft players that are over
The Packers are
22,
another
so-
one. They don't draft old guys.
DK was a couple inches taller, about 10 pounds heavier, and
A.J. Brown was almost the exact
a
same
little
size.
more explosive.
Yeah, Matt Compton and A.J. Brown.
A.J.
Yes.
Brown is almost the exact same size. They had real comparable combine measurables as well, as far as the speeds and stuff.
Muy interesante.